What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardwar. This week, I'm joined by podcast producer Ben Elman. Hey, Ben.
Hello.
Hello, and we've got a special guest this week, but I'm going to introduce him soon. We're going to be talking about all of Ford's news that they're going to be building potentially $30,000 pickup EV truck for 2027. They've also built a whole new manufacturing process, and they have a universal EV platform they claim. They're calling this their next Model T moment. So there's a lot to talk about there. As always, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes. Drop us an email at podcastinggadget.com. You can also join us on our live streams Thursday mornings, typically around 10:30 a.m. Eastern, where you could see our pretty faces, watch us show off gadgets, and have some Q&A too. So let's talk about that Ford news. And joining us is Roberto Baldwin, SAE International Sustainability Editor. What's up, Robbie?
Cars and
Cars.
cheap cars, hopefully, maybe, potentially. That's, I think, inexpensive EVs has been the long-term goal for maybe automakers, mostly people.
The name of the game. I mean, listen, the Nissan Leaf is out here. It's been out here, right? And just trucking along with very low range, but being a successful little car that I don't hear many people talk about anymore. I just got the second gen Leaf, Robbie, so I'm like a little in love with that whole platform. But let's talk about what's going on with Ford. So the big news is that they announced an additional $2 billion investment on top of $3 billion that they announced earlier this year. The $2 billion is specifically towards manufacturing for this new universal EV platform. The flagship product is going to be a potentially $30,000 EV pickup truck, but this platform can hold anything. Like we saw an animation that showed different size pickup trucks. It showed a 3-row SUV, I believe. Well, that's something that they were talking about a year ago. How big a deal is all of this for Ford? Because it does seem like last year they're kind of stepping back from EVs because sales were slowing down. And honestly, people in the US are still really confused about EVs.
Yeah, I think it's a really big deal. I think Ford was pretty bullish at the beginning. The Mach-E is a good EV. The F-150 Lightning, I actually believe that's like the best EV for 80% of truck buyers, not counting fleet.
Great truck.
Even
Yeah.
it's a great truck because most people don't really do a lot of road trips. The cheap airline tickets like destroyed the American road trip. So the F-150 Lightning is a great truck. It's the best driving F-150. But then they sort of stopped. GM continued, Hyundai continued, even Nissan, with its limited budget is continuing. And so they've sort of, and then they've been sort of start. We're going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're going to do blue oval. Maybe we're not going to do blue oval. We're going to use CATL batteries. No, we're not going to use CATL. And that's some political stuff around that. But this, they've been talking about this skunk works for the last, 2 years, where they just sent some folks off to build a low cost EV platform.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally showed off. Well, nothing. They didn't show anything.
Yeah. An animation, a really good animation.
Yeah, we got a little animated GIF.
Mm-hmm.
And we got an idea of how they're going to build this, which is pretty. It's new, and it's something that they, it kind of throws away the Henry Ford idea of the single assembly line.
Right.
It's 3 lines that go into one, which might work for them. I think it's going to work better for what it sounds like it's better for the workers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have happy workers, the workers aren't, who are less likely to get hurt, you're less likely to, you're more likely to be efficient as an automaker. So it sort of helps everyone when you really think about it. So this is a huge deal for Ford. Will they, the big question, and when it comes to Ford with EVs, is they have a history of like, we're going to do it. No, we're not. We're going to do it. No, we're not. Post Lightning, Mach-E, I'm sorry, also the E-Transit, which is a commercial van, which I drove around for like a week. It was awesome. But outside of that, they sort of like have kind of stopped with their EVs because they're trying to figure out what's happening next. And this seems to be their sort of what's next. And for consumers, this is a huge deal because for years, auto journalists and consumers have been wanting a low cost EV, and there hasn't been too many options. And the one that was doing great, the Bolt, was killed by GM. And then after a big uproar, they decided that they would bring it back.
GM loves killing EVs. That's their thing, right?
GM is a complicated place. Let's just say. But on the other hand, GM just continues to put out EVs, and these are actually very good vehicles. GM's, It's no longer called Ultium. They have their own, modular platform. Hyundai has its own modular platform. Volkswagen has its own modular platform. So Ford is sort of joining the fray with its own modular platform, something they can build multiple vehicles upon. But this is a low cost platform, which means it's 400 volt. It's not going to be quite as efficient as, say, some of the more, the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6, the Lucid, the Porsche, Taycan. But when you look at what Hyundai is doing for their inexpensive EVs that are coming, those are also 400 volt. They don't charge as quickly. They're not quite as efficient, but they're less expensive to produce.
Gotcha. And I'm gonna throw some numbers at you that we got from the announcement event this week. They're saying their new platform is going to reduce parts by 20% versus a typical vehicle with 25% fewer fasteners. They're always talking about fasteners. Is that a big deal, Robbie? Everyone's talking about fasteners.
It's fewer fasteners means there's less for the folks on the line to do.
Okay.
Which means the line can move quicker, which means the line requires less strain upon the workers. They talked about how you're no longer going to have to reach in through a door to put, the dash on, which is, that's you lean forward, you're twisting, you're putting the dash on. If you've ever seen video of an assembly line, we talk a lot about, automation and robots, but a lot of that really needs humans who can reach in and do those sort of things. And that sort of splitting it up between three parts and then bringing it together, that reduces it. You don't have to, according to Ford, they won't have to do that anymore. So it means the line's moving quicker. People are less likely to get hurt. Fewer parts in manufacturing means the vehicle's cheaper. It's more, and it's built quicker, which means you can get more out the door.
Other numbers here: 40% fewer workstations dock to dock in the plant, and 50% faster assembly time. So that all sounds good. They also put this number out there. It has potentially a lower cost of ownership over 5 years than a 3-year-old used Tesla Model Y, which is probably going to be a really popular option for people looking at used EVs right now. So there's a lot going on there. I have questions about the assembly line that they're talking about, Robbie, because traditionally Ford is known for pioneering the idea of a single assembly line, right? And now they're talking about these 3 separate lines where they could basically build the different sections of the car separately, the front, the middle, and the back, and then kind of join them together at the end. To me, as somebody who's kind of worried about structural integrity of moving vehicles, to me that feels like a weird. Are there issues potentially around that versus other companies which are more focused on stable frames and actual stable platforms?
The thing is, there's actually been a lot of there's vehicles on that have this sort of, Tesla with gigacasting. You're the whole back end, and then it just gets attached to the main frame, which encompasses the battery. Chevy with the Silverado is sort of the same thing. That is not a body on frame construction for the Silverado EV. It is a battery as a structural component, and then parts put onto it. The biggest issue with these sort of large casts is that, yes, they reduce parts, which means they're going to be cheaper. They reduce labor, but that means if there's an accident, if you get in the fender bender, you're more likely to end up with a vehicle that is totaled because the whole front end is one giant part, or the whole back end is one giant part. And if you destroy that part, or you break it, or you crumple it beyond any sort of like reasonable repair, that's it. It's too much money to fix that vehicle. And you send it back, you can pull the batteries out, they can recycle them. This, a lot of people are like, but that's less the concern of recycling the batteries. More the concern is that your insurance will probably go up as they're looking at this. If you look at Teslas are actually pretty expensive to insure. And that has to do with the fact that they have these giant casts. And Toyota wants to move to these giant casts, and so a lot of companies want to move to it because it does make it less expensive. It does reduce parts. It does make it more efficient to build these vehicles. But when you get into those fender benders, there's more likely a chance that your vehicle will not be salvageable post any sort of like real accident.
This is the sort of thing people don't really think about. It's sort of like, what happens after an accident? How does your insurance cover things, and what will they actually charge for these vehicles? I was doing research, right? I set myself, we needed a second car for my family. Kids are doing separate things. My wife is driving now, so we need to go in different places sometimes. So I was like, what can I get for around $15,000? I was looking at all my options. I ended up noticing, Robbie, that there are a lot of used EVs that are in that price range right now and are perfectly functional for the range I need. So there was the e-Golf, the BMW i3, and the Nissan Leaf, the second gen that I eventually adopted.
Mhm.
But the BMW i3 is a weird vehicle, isn't it? Because it has this like unique carbon fiber frame, and it's hard to you can't repair it. It's also hard to like service. So insurance rates for that thing are over the roof, and also if you get in a crash, you're just screwed. So people don't think about that when they're buying any type of car, but that's a thing that's for some vehicles is a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, we as cars are being built, they're looking for ways to save money when they're building these
Mhm.
cars. I mean, the GM, Ford, they make a lot of their money on their full size pickups. The F1, the F series just prints money for Ford. It's the number one selling vehicle for the last like 4 decades.
Mhm.
It is their bread and butter. And so they thought that if they brought the F-150 Lightning, they would, it would be the same thing. The problem is that most large, full size pickup truck owners don't want an EV. They want vroom vroom truck. That's what they want. They want
There are
vroom.
benefits of the EV. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want the benefits of the EV are sort of lost on them because
Yeah.
they want vroom vroom truck. And so the EV it sells well, then it doesn't, then it does, and it all kind of fluctuates based on what Ford is charging. Also, Ford was said it was going to be
Yeah.
one price, and then
Yeah.
it came out and it was a much higher price. And we've seen this a couple times from Ford. The Maverick came out at $20,000. Now you can't get a Maverick for under $30,000.
Uh-huh.
With destination and everything, it's a $30,000 truck. It's a $10,000 leap for
Mhm.
a vehicle. So when Ford says we're going to make a $30,000 EV, you're like, yeah, but for how long?
For how long? Yeah.
Is it the first 6 months?
Mhm.
Is it?
What does any of it really mean? Car pricing is just like a hard thing to keep in mind right now. I'll tell you, I live outside of Atlanta, Robbie, and I do see F-150 Lightnings like buzzing around. So it's kind of a cool thing to see. Georgia, you wouldn't think is a typically EV heavy state, but maybe it's where I live. They're just the people who would have that. But
Mhm.
is it a psychological thing? Like when I talk to people about, hey, would you consider an EV even as a second car? They think of are the problems and the ways isn't going to be hard to charge, or I'm worried about range, and the things they don't always think about with a gas car, because you can assume you'll find a gas station somewhere.
Yeah.
um Around the world it seems like adoption of EVs, especially in China and throughout Europe, is a lot stronger than it is here. Do we need to do more than just have like a cheap EV out there for people? Like, do we need to have a bigger push? Because I don't know if the tax credits were doing it and those are going away too. So that was one incentive for some people. What do you think it's going to take for like America to really take EVs seriously?
I think it comes down to your neighbor. Your neighbor has an EV. You
Yes.
see them just
Yes.
living their life with their EV every day, and you're like, oh, so it's not as bad.
Yeah.
There's
You hear them whir off every morning with that whoosh of an EV. You're like, I want
yeah.
that. Yeah.
If you live in a house or you own a house or whatever, if you have the opportunity to charge at home,
Hmm.
like having an EV essentially is a no-brainer, to be honest.
Hmm.
Every morning we get up, our electric car is charged. I am now become very irritated when I take my gas car to get gas
Yes.
because I have to go do something versus it feels like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this
I have to take
because my
that
my
oil. I
EV
have
is
to use
already
stuff.
ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. What do you have now, Robbie, in your garage?
So we have a Hyundai Ioniq 5, so that's
Beautiful.
our EV. We get the
Mm.
rear wheel drive. We have 300 miles of range, which other than the multiple trips I've used it, I live in the Bay Area, driving down to LA. I've done that like 8 to 10 times.
Yeah.
Really no issues except for over Christmas where I had to wait in line. And then I have a Subaru BRZ. So I have a little sports car manual
Beautiful
transmission.
Subaru.
So that's my little gas car.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love that car, but I also hate the fact that I got to go put gas in it.
Hmm. Hmm. Charging is certainly an issue, but even for if people are worried about, if I have a house, if I have a garage, I still have to immediately install a charger to really get my EV going, and that's not necessarily true either. It depends on like how far your range is, but my Leaf is 150 miles. I plug in to a normal outlet for level 1 charging, and if I park at 5 p.m. by the next morning, like I will get 45 to 50% charge back. And for a local commuter car, for a secondary car, like that's perfectly fine. Even if you have a bigger car, like when I've tested the VW Buzz and big EVs, like you get overnight, you get maybe 10%. If you are not doing road trips every single day, that's probably all the driving you will actually need to do for that day. So the charging issue is also something we just have to rethink, I guess. Because people are
It's
worried like I have to go find a charger in a public parking lot or something, and that's gonna be more complicated than we think. So it's a whole
it's
thing. Yeah.
the average person drives, according to Department of
Yeah.
Transportation, 37 miles per day.
Yes.
That's but the thing is that we're in traffic for so long. It feels like we're driving much further.
Hmm.
When we first got our we had a Kona EV before we got the Ioniq 5.
Yeah.
And when we first got it, my wife, who, I am the EV guy, I'm like, this is what we're gonna get, this electric car for you. Um, and there was concern. She was concerned, like, well, what if I don't have enough range? Da, da, da. And within like 2 years, we were driving down the road and we saw a Fiat 500e, which had about 90 miles of range for
Hmm.
sale, like really cheap. And she's like, well, why don't we just get rid of this and get that? I'm like, well, I don't want to do 90 miles of range. She's like, when do I ever drive 90 miles? And it is once you have the vehicle, then you sort of, you have to reprogram your brain, because we're talking about decades upon decades upon decades of this is how a car works.
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, you drive it a few days, and then you have to go to a place and put gas in it. Versus I get up in the morning and my car is full of, electricity, or if you want to say gas, whatever, your car is full every day. It's like having a gas station and a full service attendant in your home who creeps out of a closet at night and fills up your vehicle. So
I mean, yeah, that's what my children are imagining. It's terrifying. I was doing a few radio spots this week, Robbie, around like this Ford news, and one of the radio people were like, "Huh, everything's going electric now, huh?" It's sort of like you want to plug in electricity to my clothes, to my when I hang my clothes outside too. I'm like, dude,
that's called a
electric
dryer.
dryers have been around for 50 years. How long? Like what century are we in? Yes,
It's
electricity is everywhere. Electric all the things. Yeah.
it's interesting to talk to people, because again, people it's new, it's
Yeah.
different, it's a little bit frightening for some, just because they don't understand. I don't think the automakers
Yeah.
or the government have done a very good job educating people as to what this actually means. And so you end up having to do with word of mouth. A splashy EV commercial doesn't really explain what's going on. It doesn't really explain like the benefits of this vehicle. It doesn't explain the fact that this vehicle is going to be quieter, it's going to be smoother, it's going to be, quicker off the line than your very fancy gas car. And this car is, the Chevy Bolt, the Nissan Leaf. Those aren't, luxury quick cars, but they are.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, when it comes down to what they can accomplish on the road. And again, if you have access to charging, home charging, and like you said, you can do level 1, you can just get another like NEMA 240 switch put into your garage or on the outside of your house and just run a cable. It doesn't have to be a big fancy charge point charger. It could just really be a cable, because you can schedule your charging in your vehicle. And when you do the sort of ROI, I did the ROI on the Kona and my BRZs before we got the Ioniq 5, which is more efficient. It was 3 times more to drive 100 miles. It was $6 to drive the Kona. It was $18 to drive the Subaru. And so at the end of the day, you're like, well, this is A, it's cheaper. B, it's more convenient.
Right.
And, because we got 800 volt, we actually do road trips with it all the time.
Very nice. Very nice. It is one of those things maybe people just have to like sit down in them. Like right now I'm sitting between, I have a really nice Volvo XC90, which is my big family car that takes us on road trips and everything. That's a really nice car. That's a luxury car. The Nissan Leaf is essentially an economy car, but I have more fun driving it because it's like it's a cute little thing and it zips off the line and it's smoother too. I think the smoothness of EVs is something people don't, they're used to the like chatter of a nice engine, or even
Yeah.
the whir of like CVT or something. Like they're used to a car feeling like something is happening, and an EV feels like nothing is happening. And to me, that is just a much more peaceful driving experience too. So that's, yeah, we're very pro EV, at least on in this case. I want to ask you one more thing, Robbie. What do you think this news means from Ford for Slate Auto? Slate Auto is the one that's backed by Jeff Bezos. They showed off that really like no frills electric pickup truck. They were saying potentially $20,000, but that was including the tax credit. Without the tax credit, that thing could be $27,500. How does Slate Auto kind of compare to what Ford is planning to do at this point?
I think what Slate Auto has going for it is that it's going to be out first.
Hmm.
So it's supposed to, it well potentially, and both of these are potentials. I mean, to be honest, it regardless of whether you're, Ford has a better chance of bringing this to market than Slate, because Ford has, again, F-150 money, but they still both have to build that vehicle. They still both have to like give us a vehicle. Slate has shown the vehicle. Slate has given us range. Slate has told us how it's saving money, and for a certain sect of the population, the Slate is a very intriguing offer. It doesn't have a modem. It doesn't have a paint job. It doesn't have like anything in it.
Radio.
Everything is DIY. Everything is BYO. Bring your own whatever. And for someone like me, who is a big tech nerd, has been, covering ADAS and self-driving and all this stuff, I love the idea of the Slate truck. I love the idea of that I can make it into an SUV like later on. I can,
Sure.
take the rear, wall out and then just have this big open, area. I can put a roll cage. I can wrap it in everything. And how they're going about saving money is by, it doesn't have a paint job. They,
Mhm.
they don't have a lot of parts. You have roll up windows, which you can, replace, but they're giving you all these sort of, they're supposed to have like some sort of Slate University where it teaches you how to do things to your car, so you can order things and then do it yourself, or you can like find a garage who'll do it for you.
Yeah.
So that, and to me, that's very intriguing. But also, they are not Ford. If Ford was building this truck, they could probably build it for 25. They could probably sell it
Yeah.
for 24, 25. Slate is a new company. They have a lot of investors, including Bezos. But they don't have the capital. They don't have anything to lean on to
Mhm.
continue being a business, whereas Ford has, again, F-Series money. So it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out, because Ford is like, well, we're going to have this $30,000 truck,
Yeah.
but Ford again has a history of saying we have a $30,000 thing, 32,000, 35,000. Okay, now it's 40,000. They just have a track record of the
Yeah.
prices increasing, and that doesn't mean Slate won't increase their price, but at the end of the day, competition is good. And if people have an opportunity to pick one or two or three, the Bolt is coming back.
Mhm.
The Nissan Leaf is coming to market. And if it would, it'd be a lot easier to answer any of these questions if it wasn't for the tariff like chaos
We don't
we
know. There's a
we
lot
don't
we
know.
don't know. Yeah.
Like everything is like
Yeah.
up in the air for all these companies, to be honest, when it comes to pricing and how much it costs to build these.
Oh,
But we're going to have multiple sort of low cost EVs coming to market soon, which is something we should have had like 3 years ago, to be honest.
absolutely.
It's great. The Lucid Air is a wonderful vehicle. The Rivians are great. The F-150 Lightning is wonderful. The Silverado is a fun sort of big truck, but they're all very, very
So
expensive.
expensive. All right, Robbie, I know you got a meeting to get to, so I'll bring you back in the future. We're going to talk more about cars. Roberto Baldwin, where can we find you on the internet these days?
I'm not on Twitter anymore because not a Nazi. But I am on Blue Sky, STRNGWYS, and then you can just look up Strange Waves without vowels on pretty much
Awesome.
most of the internet's places, and SAE International. You go to SAE.org/news. You'll see my articles along with my cohorts. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, if you're in LA in the East Bay, check out Robbie's many shows. You're all
Yeah.
seeing the show in his many bands. So you can find
Too
Robbie
many bands.
at your local music dive. I don't know. Well, thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Head out and yeah, drop us your audio too. Share it somewhere. Okay.
Will do.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. And how is chat doing? We're going to do a little Q&A. I'm going to mention actually something about the Ford car once we get back into recording. But I want to check with the folks. James Brown asking some questions. The James Brown. Amazing. James Brown tweeting a lot, posting a lot. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to the questions I see here. James Brown, what non-Tesla EV would we recommend? We've written about quite a few of them, but personally, I am into used cars because you get so much bang for your buck when you do that. And in that respect, I landed on the Nissan Leaf for me. But you can get a used Hyundai Ioniq if your budget's higher. The Hyundai Ioniq V, the 5 that Robbie has, that thing is 25-ish thousand used. That's an incredible deal on a great car. So we're going to talk all sorts about cars. We like the Hyundais, we like the Kias. I did the EV9. Rivian's amazing. The For me, it's like the balance between affordability and power and everything. That's kind of the hard thing to figure out at this point. But yeah, how's the rest of chat doing? Have you noticed anything, Ben? I am not hearing you, Ben.
My chair squeaks, so I
Yeah.
often mute myself when I'm not doing a
Okay.
segment. So WX Romer says that we have an electric Polaris Ranger with 40 miles of range that we can take
Mhm.
off-road in North Carolina. Charging is slow, but it works with our use case, running errands around town and around the house.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, this is something that I've absolutely said on the podcast before, that I often think about all of the running around that my mom did
Hmm.
when my brother and I were in like elementary school, middle school. So she was like a Cub Scout mom. She like stayed at home for a good amount of, when I was like under 15 or so. So she was doing a lot of like household errands. She was doing grocery shopping and doing stuff to get ready for like Cub Scout meetings, doing school pickup in the afternoons. And still, all of that like zigging and zagging
Yeah.
around in the car probably amounted to less than 30 miles a day, which means you might have zero use for a internal combustion engine, even if it's a gas electric hybrid. And I think that's great.
Yeah, the Polaris Ranger is like that's one of those little like off-road ATVs that you see on farms and or in forests and stuff. That's a great option for some people. But hey, a lot of cities, even here in Georgia, there's a Peachtree City, which is not the city I live in. I live in Peachtree, another Peachtree. But they are known for having multi-use trails all throughout, and everybody there has golf carts. And that's a richer
Mm.
town. It's certainly a more wealthy town, but golf carts for local getting around your city, that's not a terrible idea. Honestly, it gives teenagers a way to move around. It gives like your family ways to move around without burning gas. We have so many alternatives. I like used EVs, especially used low range EVs. My Nissan Leaf only gets 150 miles, but that's fine. I'm not road tripping with it. I charge it maybe twice a week amongst all the driving I do in my neighborhood and nearby towns and even into Atlanta. It's totally
It
fine.
would
Yeah.
be really interesting to have a golf cart similar design, maybe a
Mhm.
similar footprint. I mean, now I'm thinking about like a Mario Kart or something. Like, um,
There are many creative golf carts. There are golf carts that can fit like six people. There are golf carts that can fit an entire family.
yeah,
When I
yeah, I've
recently
seen
in
them. They
Miami,
have
I see
like
that. Yeah,
2 rows of bench seats behind the
you can fit a baby
driver
seat
and
in there.
passenger.
Yeah,
The only complaint is that those are open to air, and during the Georgia summer, that's got to be uncomfortable.
I mean it's uncomfortable, but you exist outside. It's totally fine. It's totally like that's not the end of the world for us.
So
Uh,
James Brown says, my dad recently got the Cadillac Lyric, and he loves it. And then
Beautiful car.
Eric Walters concurred and said the Cadillac Lyric is excellent. What are your thoughts on the car? I agree with James.
It's a very nice car. I've seen it around that it's on the pricier end, but it's beautiful and it's nice to see more cars working with the Tesla chargers. That's a big thing. The charging standards, all the different plugs, like that's all the headache that the basically for the last decade we've had to deal with. My Nissan Leaf has two separate ports when you open up the charging thing, two ports to plug into. One, which is a standard port that goes into level 2 chargers, level 1, but one is like the Chatamo charger, which was this thing mainly used in like Japan and in some European countries. It was mainly Japan actually. So those chargers are just disappearing. I can't really fast charge this Leaf. Totally fine. I don't really need to, but that's the sort of thing that's been kind of holding this whole industry back is that confusion and the infrastructure is still not great. So many, so many different things. But all right, I think we can move on. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more thing.
Mhm.
Yash says that China seems so advanced with EVs, it's shocking. The
Yep.
type of tech plus charging is great. I mean, I've seen videos of a car driving into like a little facility that will change the battery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can just
Yeah.
hot swap batteries
That's not
and
widespread,
get
but
more
it's tech that
range.
does exist there. Yeah. Yeah.
And then they also say, I wonder what the non-CCP numbers for income are in China, though. Just because car prices are lower doesn't mean the total population can afford them. I would argue that it doesn't really matter whether or not the total population can afford them,
Hmm.
because the people who can't afford those cars might not even be going that far. Like,
Hmm.
they're in where they are. Maybe they can get around with bikes. Maybe they can get around in other ways. But
There
the
is good
fact
public transportation for a lot of those folks too. So yeah.
I want to sit in a BYD car so badly.
Yeah.
I am so curious about that.
Go to Mexico
And
City. They're all
yeah,
over the
no,
place.
I
Go to
guess I have to
Mexico.
go to Mexico City because
I want to go to Mexico City. Yeah.
last time I was in Mexico City a few years ago,
Hmm.
I just wasn't thinking about the cars at all. I was thinking
I
about
don't think those cars
yeah,
weren't even there. This is
yeah,
like a recent development, most likely.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
but what happens is when you have a very strong dictatorial practically state, a really strong authoritarian state that can push industries in certain ways, that's kind of how you get the cheaper things. But also there's a lot of innovation coming out of China, a lot of the battery tech. US companies, European companies are relying on the battery innovations coming out of China to put into their cars. um, there's expertise, there is national backing for it, and there's a huge thirst from the public for this technology too. There's none of the sort of like, oh, I'm an American and I need my truck to go vroom thing happening in China. It's, hey, this thing is inexpensive and it's incredibly fast. Great deal. Sign me up.
I've been
People
saying for
get
a while that we need electric cars to be louder overall.
no. It's okay. I mean, so they
No, okay,
simulate
okay,
sounds
but
inside the cabin for
think
those
think
people.
about this use case for a second.
Uh-huh.
It's it only gets louder with the speed that
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
car is going. So, like, as it's idling or something, you have that, cool ghostly sounding
Mhm.
chord, and they only started doing that as an accessibility feature, just so people who had low vision or were blind knew that cars were around.
For anybody,
But
honestly, you expect a car to make noise. So for
yeah,
every
yeah.
pedestrian, you need
Yeah,
that
because
noise. Yeah,
because maybe you're looking in the other direction and somebody's backing up, and so at least you know.
yeah.
But think about this: if someone is driving recklessly, if they're doing something stupid, and they are
Mhm.
absolutely flooring it on a really powerful horsepower EV engine, it still gets loud because that satisfies the people who are like, I want my car to go vroom. And also it
Mhm.
becomes a like loudness proportional to speed
That
becomes a
tends to
safety
happen.
feature.
That does already happen in a lot of EVs, and I think the big push now is they're doing more artificial in-cabin noise because a lot of these
Mm.
cars sound very quiet on the inside, and you can't really get that
They've been
satisfaction
doing
out where, yeah,
they've been doing artificial cabin noise for a long time.
for a long time. But now you can choose the noise, and you can choose what it kind of makes it to be like. Anyway, we will talk more. I want to get back into like what the commenters are saying, but let's go through some news.
Yeah.
Let me just see here.
Just very quickly, Yash said that they were in Cuba and
Yeah.
recently saw lots of Chinese
Oh,
EVs there.
that
That's cool.
makes sense. That makes sense for sure. All right, let me pull up my notes here. I got this story. All right. Before we move on to other news, I wanted to add something to the Ford story we were just talking about. I wanted to describe this $30,000 EV because they did not even show us a picture. They have nothing to really show us, but the Ford did say that it's going to have the internal space of a Rav4, which is the most popular car in the U.S. It's a compact, crossover uh, SUV. It's going to have a front trunk for extra storage, but it's going to have the secure flatbed of a pickup. So that could be really useful. Like they're describing a very functional, useful vehicle for a lot of people. Some small pickups don't have a lot of cabin space, so that's a problem for people. And people worry about storage too. So with the combination of the front, which is sealed and closed, you can put groceries there, and you have to worry about stuff getting rained on, and the rear bed, like that for a lot of people could be a useful combination of things. But hey, that's the pitch of the F-150 Lightning too, and it doesn't seem like tons of people are jumping on that.
On the other hand,
Hmm.
you can't roll coal in any of these cars, and that's un-American.
It's an American. I mean, I want those co-rollers to just like say, yeah. It's very annoying. It's very annoying. Let's move on to other news. We saw the release right after our episode last week. I love it when this happens. OpenAI released GPT-5, their next big upgrade. And it turns out it was not a great update for a lot of people. A lot of people are complaining that they're just in general, the chatbot language they're used to. GPT-5 is supposed to be less conversational, a little more direct, a little simplified, and more streamlined. And people are like, well, my chatbot friend sounds different. My AI spouse or AI girlfriend slash boyfriend is not the same anymore. And they got really mad about that. So OpenAI is now making it possible to use GPT 4.0, the previous higher end version, and it's also giving you more variants to choose from throughout. This is, hey, turns out this is what happens when you have a successful platform is people are going to like a specific version, and you can't just go, especially when it's like a thing that people are talking to as like a friend, you can't just go changing the DNA of that thing or how that thing's brain works. Did you have any
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
This is something that you were able to do with Anthropic's platform before, but maybe not. Uh, excuse me, maybe not OpenAI because they want to just like expose everybody to like their newest and best. They still feel like they have the first mover advantage, although that might be thinning for them right now.
I mean, maybe it's even in the past, like you were able to choose from different GPT levels, like different models that you'd want to work with. So this is not a new thing for OpenAI, but the idea that yeah, people may actually prefer the previous one, even though they're saying GPT-5 is so smart and capable. It's as smart as a PhD.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of examples where that actually isn't true. It does seem faster. It does seem more capable in some ways, but I've seen a lot of examples of things like, hey, make a map of the United States and list all the state names, and it can't do it. Or make a list of like the recent presidents, basically with pictures and names.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Real
That
issues
it was
around.
hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely hilarious. So
Also, a big
yeah,
thing is asking how many letters or how many
mhm.
reoccurrences of a letter are in a certain word. Like ChatGPT still can't spell blueberry.
Blueberry. It still thinks there are what three B's in blueberry.
It's something with how your query is translated into
Mhm.
like numbers and then like retranslated by the ChatGPT output. I saw a video about this.
Whatever, yeah, whatever you want to call it, it's dumb as hell. And Roberto, do not trust any of the claims from OpenAI or these people about the wisdom of their chat models because they're always going to overstate it. And just be careful. Like I see a lot of people replacing their search engines with just ChatGPT searches, and that just opens you up to all sorts of fun problems down the line.
Yeah, zero-click web searches are not only bad for your information because it can get things wrong, and chatbots are just so confidently wrong, but also, how are you going to get traffic to important websites like Engadget.com?
Yeah, seems like we're snowballing all the issues together, and we're just going downhill, and we don't know where we're going to end up. It's not going to be fun.
So James
Yeah,
Brown says they're going to paywall your AI GF/BF, which is,
they're already doing that. You're already
yeah,
paying for access to that. So
but that seems like it could really be a next step. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but
mhm.
you could end up with a quota of questions that you can ask or
Yeah,
back and forth that you can ask ChatGPT. That seems like the end goal, but I imagine that they wouldn't do that anytime soon because they want people to be so they want it to be so integrated in people's lives that they
it's
can't
disgusting.
imagine not using it, and then that's when you have to start paying per 100 or 1,000 queries.
It's absolutely disgusting. There was that Wired story recently about a reporter basically taking a group of people who had AI boyfriends and girlfriends on like a weekend retreat, and it's both like I feel sad that people basically have to come to this for any sort of like emotional human connection. We've talked about like the fact that for a lot of people, especially men, it turns out, but a lot of people in the U.S. In the world, there's a massive loneliness crisis because we've been so siloed off from our neighbors and from other people, especially people who do not live in cities. If you're not running into people every day and having like chance encounters, if you're in the suburbs or somewhere far out and you're isolated. Like it is hard out there, and these chatbots promise to give you some sort of like emotional connection. We are playing a dangerous game here, and we don't know where it's going to lead. Like there was the guy who basically fell into AI psychosis. There are several stories about AI psychosis.
There are more stories of AI psychosis coming out
Like a
now than
million.
I thought there would be. Like I
Yeah.
thought that maybe we'd get like a couple this year or something, but I've seen like 6 or 8, including that one big investor to OpenAI.
Seems like a problem. Seems like something we should be worried about, folks. I don't know. That's all we're doing. We're looking at like all the issues we're dealing with right now. In other news, we saw some depressing news that Nvidia and AMD have reached a really unique, I don't know, unprecedented deal with the U.S. government to basically give the government a portion of their profits of chips sold, AI chips sold to China. The reporting is 15% of sales. That's kind of the concession they'll have to make to sell products to China. This feels like a really like so many things in America right now, like Tim Cook gifting the president a golden, bauble to basically let Apple be free of tariffs. Our entire economic system is right now is coming down to favors and weird side deals and ways to just make things happen. And like, hey, that doesn't seem good. There are countries where this is how it works, and it has not worked out well for Russia and a lot of other countries. So anyway, this has not been officially announced, but this could be a thing that's happening. From what I'm hearing, a lot of Chinese AI companies do not want these chips too because it's like the H20 chip from Nvidia. Those were the ones.
Is it H20 or H2O?
That was H20, but anyway, those chips were basically less powerful than the stuff you could get in the US. So the Chinese companies are looking for other ways to get access to GPU power. May not even be a thing a lot of those folks want. The main thing, this is a big deal. You need GPUs to build AI models. That's the main thing. You need GPUs for power to train models, to build models. That's why it's so important. We saw the news about a couple was it the what was it? DeepThink was the one where a Chinese, startup was able to
Wait, DeepSeek.
DeepSeek, yeah. DeepSeek was the Chinese startup that was able to make something that's comparable to OpenAI's models with a fraction of the funding and a fraction
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But yeah, it depends on how much, but this is like all been predicted. Like once the hard stuff for a lot of these models has been filled, it's gonna be a lot easier for people to like look at this work and kind of like backwards inference their way into it. Yeah. We also saw
Oh yeah, and meanwhile, there was also a new paper that came out just recently by NVIDIA itself saying that small language models are the future of agentic AI. So
sure,
maybe you don't need to like pave over half of a state and put up tons of data centers for something that people actually want to interact with.
I mean, it's complicated because so the small language models are things that can run locally on your devices, but to get there, you have to build the large language models. So I don't think we've seen many examples of people just focus on building small models and not scaling up, because scale is the name of the game right now. Scale is how you win market share and make your AI smarter than others. So even if small models are the thing, and that's what's going to be powering Apple Intelligence, like the stuff happening on your device, any Android device, same thing. Those are small language models or small models, small AI models. We're still going to need the data centers to train the bigger stuff and to have stuff happening in the cloud. So I don't know if that's going to be going away, unfortunately. Man, fun times in the tech world. How about a slightly more fun story? We did see over the last week that AOL's dial-up internet is not going to be around for much longer. It's going to be discontinued on September 30th. Also want to point out that technically AOL is a part of our company. AOL's a part of Yahoo, so we
really
AOL company. Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
I mean, we've talked about this. We mentioned this. Like when I joined Engadget, I think that was I joined AOL, and then Yahoo bought AOL, I believe, or that union had happened. That's all in the 2010s. So anyway, we should have known this, but apparently this news was discovered by PC Gamer from some emails I think that went out to dial-up service users. People still use dial-up, or people are at least still paying for dial-up. We did talk about this a couple of years ago, where like thousands of people still had dial-up subscriptions, but maybe didn't realize it. And now it's down to I think a couple hundred.
Okay, so not that many people, but especially with the big push toward faster internet across the country in the US, and like we still didn't do a really good job of that. There are some cities that still don't get fiber optic, and then there are some parts of the country that are still basically on DSL, and
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
confusing. And it reminds me of that quote that was something about the future is here, it's just not very well distributed.
I mean, these are, I think the latest number is actually maybe thousands of these dial-up users. I'd actually love to talk to some of these folks, but I think talking to these folks may be like talking to the radio guy who I had to explain what a website was, to. It's just like people are just living their lives. They don't need to like catch up with the latest tech. Like if they have a computer that's probably 15, 20 years old at this point, a computer that can watch the news occasionally and get them their email for them to talk to their grandkids, that's all they need. And maybe they just like have never considered beyond that. But yeah, I would love to track one of these folks down and talk to them about how they use the internet, or does it not even matter?
Hey,
Doesn't
we have a chat commenter that says they still use their AOL email. God
That's fine.
bless.
Yeah, use your AOL email. It's more like the dial-up is the thing. I did recommend this to people when I've talked about this on the radio, though. If you still have an AOL email, don't put that on your resume. If you have a Hotmail email, don't use that on your resume, because it makes you seem out of touch and outdated, and like you are not smart enough to use a better email service. So all this stuff matters, It's maybe unfair, but it does kind of matter. It's unfortunate. I remember my AOL usernames. I remember AIM and like how important that was to me in middle school and high school. I miss my AOL days, so RIP AOL dial-up. I know exactly what that whole process looks like. I remember waiting with bated breath. Is like sometimes that process would fail. And that afternoon, I would not be able to go online and talk about anime with my internet friends, and I would be very sad. So I remember, like, the internet wasn't just like we were not just swimming in it. I didn't have a supercomputer in my pocket. It reminds me of old days. And actually, yeah, let's talk about something moving forward a bit. Tech of the future, the super smart Siri that's AI powered. There are reports that it will not be here until next spring. Also, a Siri that will be interacting more directly with apps and the AI and everything. Next spring is the date. It was delayed from last year.
Also allegedly.
Also allegedly. Apple has not talked much about it, but this is according to Mark Gurman, who has usually, when he reports like timing, he has a clearer sense of like timing specific features given his sources. And we will certainly, hopefully, be talking with Mark Gurman again soon ahead of the iPhone launch. This all makes sense. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about last year, Ben, where I was like, Apple should not rush this. Nobody should rush this. If you're planning a big new AI feature that's going to be like a core component of your OS, don't rush it, or you'll have a Microsoft recall situation, or you'll have a situation where like Microsoft is just shoving Copilot into everything, and maybe not everybody wants it, and maybe people don't fully see the functionality of it, and Microsoft themselves have not fully baked that functionality either. So take your time, Apple. I think like, yeah, next year is probably the latest they can do something like this, but people are still locked into their iPhones. People are not jumping to Android because they're annoyed by Siri,
There's also just a huge range of levels of adoption of AI right now. There are people who I am increasingly seeing called AI vegans, people who
Yeah.
absolutely refuse to use AI, and I completely understand why. And I think a lot of people who interact with a computer every day might have gone onto ChatGPT a couple of times just to see what's going on, and then there are, I think, a small, compared to like the global population, but very, very dedicated group of users who don't work in AI, but really, really love it and use it to write all of their LinkedIn posts about how, their child's birth helped them learn something about B2B sales. Um,
I hate it.
but this is another case of iPhones are for normies, and you need to make sure that what you're putting in iOS is so dead simple to use.
Mhm.
So if grandma wants to ask for a 3-step thing because she saw someone or one of the grandkids said, hey, you can do this new thing. If grandma asks for a 3-step process from Siri, that it absolutely works every single time.
Should just work, yeah.
Um,
Grandma's not asking for this, but yeah, somebody is.
yeah, somebody is, but iPhones are for the average user, whether or not you want to think of that as a pejorative. And so, yeah, take more time on it if you need.
Take more time.
Make it as safe as possible. Do
I
what
do
you
find
need to do.
myself occasionally asking Siri questions like, "Hey, is this is this dangerous for cats? Bringing flowers into the house, bringing plants into the house." Like, I could do the web search, but I'm just walking, talking, my hands are busy, and I usually get a response. And then if it does the ChatGPT search to the web, takes like 5 seconds or more, but I usually get something that's vaguely useful. Enough for me to know that split-second decision I need to make. Should I buy this or not? That's all I need. I don't need to dive deeper into it. I'm not researching political facts. I'm not like researching hardcore science or anything. Just like, is this good? This is not. Thank you, computer. Now shut up. We will see. We'll see where all this is going.
And I still think that ChatGPT, large language models, all these language models are the most useful thing is to get people to just adopt ambient computing more.
That's what it is. You're just
Every time we talk about AI, I'm just like, we've already been trained by like decades of people saying, computer, do this, computer, do that.
Well,
And
especially
so
after
this is the thing that powers like tea, Earl Grey, hot on Star Trek.
After the Amazon speakers, after smart speakers, I feel like that was the big thing because I don't actually see people doing the Siri stuff.
People thought Alexa was going to be smarter, but we needed another kind of tech to undergird a smarter Alexa. And so here we have the thing that makes the smarter Alexa, these transformer language models.
So we're gonna get there. The question is like, hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's not intrusive. Hopefully it keeps privacy safe and everything. I don't know. Something else I want to talk about real quick. I don't know if you guys saw this. But Perplexity, the AI company, is they do a lot of things where they like make big news about deals they don't actually want to make. And most recently this week, they said that they want to buy Google Chrome from Google. They want to buy Chrome from Google for $34.5 billion. This is an AI company that is worth, I believe, $18 billion. So they would. This is just ridiculous. This is like this is not even a top tier AI company. This is a startup that has gained some money, and only $18 billion. Yes, it's worth only $18 billion. But OpenAI, XAI, Anthropic are worth like 300 billion, 200 billion, technically. I don't know. It seems ridiculous. This will never actually happen, but I really do wonder what's happening out there with Perplexity. MC Siegler, longtime blogger, I believe now he's at Google Ventures, wrote something on his Spyglass site about this.
He said it was a PR stunt.
It's a PR stunt, and Perplexity does this quite a bit just to get themselves in the news because it doesn't have to. They don't actually have to go through with a lot of this stuff, but just kind
on
of.
On the other hand, however, we have the issue of AI web browsers.
Yeah.
Arc is like, we're abandoning Arc, or the browser company, excuse me, says we're abandoning Arc. Like, I'm sorry to The Verge. The Verge loved Arc for whatever reason. And we're going to start developing a new AI browser. And that's going to be interesting, but like none of this stuff is out yet. So I could understand why a company like Perplexity would want to do a PR stunt and say, hey, we're going to buy Chrome and like turn it into an AI browser. But we don't even really know what AI browsers could look like yet. And also, they could possibly be fantastically insecure. just like phenomenally insecure.
I mean, the idea of an AI web browser, basically, right now, what these AI search engines are is just it's a box, and you add in a prompt, text, media, whatever, or you voice a prompt. It is just a search box. So, I think the idea for a lot of them is like, what if just the way that Chrome is essentially the title bar, the URL bar in Chrome is also your search bar.
Yeah.
What if your search bar was the main thing, and then you could both browse the web and also explore answers? I will tell you, I don't lean into these services very much, but when I'm on like This Week in Tech with Leo Laporte, I see what's going on in his computer. Not to spill the tea on Leo, but he is searching perplexity. Like he is, as we were talking about topics, he is like going into things,
Oh,
and
interesting.
yeah, and he is like pulling facts up and pulling like information up, and that helps him like stay in the conversation. When I'm doing this show, like I'm searching Google, I'm clicking around, I'm doing like different things, but I'm going through a search engine. It is kind of nice to have like one thing you go to where you could be like ask a question while you're live, like an assistant who can feed you facts or a producer. So I see the value there. Not sure about the value for everybody. This is certainly a PR stunt. Perplexity is not buying Google Chrome. That's just ridiculous.
Another question is, what is the financial incentive to continue putting new information online when you have all of these zero-click web searches done by AI, and they're using old scraped versions of the internet? They're using Common Crawl, they're using like a bunch of other scrapes of huge amounts of internet content. In fact, there was a whole thing, a whole chapter in Empire of AI, talking about how at the beginning, the AI labs like OpenAI and Anthropic were trying to figure out whether or not they wanted to use Common Crawl at all, because
Yeah,
Common
yeah.
Crawl includes 4chan, it includes Manosphere sites. It's just like a huge grab bag of things. It includes some of the Warhammer 40K sites that have led people to think that like demonic things are happening, when actually it's just kind of like remixing weird Warhammer 40K lore and then like
Temporary.
serving it to you
Yeah.
as what you think is like a new religion. Getting back on topic though,
Uh-huh.
um, Engadget is an editorial website. It
Mhm.
puts new information online technically for free, but what you exchange is your clicks, your views, your potential ad dollars and everything to new information, or in exchange for new information about tech online.
Mhm.
What happens when people don't go to Engadget.com anymore?
We're all worried about it. And also like basically online media exists because of online ads, and the online ad industry was essentially carved, like created by Google, and everybody followed suit.
Yeah, and
Is it
now
true
like
like making deals with AI companies to produce content for AI search engines for a lot of sites? I'm not going to name names, but a lot of sites that are just letters in their names. Um, Instead of being SEO, like they're thinking how to be AI optimized, as they produce content. So their crawlers, their stuff will get picked up. But
Well, yeah, but who's getting paid for that?
who's
Like
getting
the
paid?
AI
That's the
companies are
question.
not paying these editorial websites right
That's
now.
the question, and that's like the fight that's happening between a lot of different companies right now. We don't know, but we exist in media, so we're just like perpetually doomed. If it's not one thing, it's another. We survived a decade of constant pivots into different media formats. All these, and it's always the big companies. It's Facebook saying like, hey, convert everything to Facebook video, and we'll make a sweet deal for you all. And people hired and built entire video teams around that. And then a couple of years later, Facebook's like, nah, we're not going to do that.
And then there was a court case saying that they fabricated most of their
Yeah.
views. And now in the podcast excuse me,
Mhm.
in the podcast industry, we are currently on pivot to video 2. Just
Yeah.
for those at home who are keeping track.
Back to
Um,
video. Back to video.
yeah.
And also like a lot of the people who are producing content like have noticed, like I've seen this, like they're on YouTube, they're on TikTok, they're making video content because producing text content, that's not where the audience is. Like the audience is not necessarily reading text content on the internet. They're maybe seeing it through AI engines, but less people are going into actual websites, which is a bummer. But we're live streaming on YouTube right now, and I'm thinking of ways like, can we get ourselves to other services as well? Probably maybe with Riverside or something. But that is, we go to where the content is, and that is, it's a terrible game. We're just always going to be chasing like something and big money and hoping we can all survive. Ugh.
So Devendra, you know what else is a terrible game?
Yeah.
Dating.
Dating.
So I don't know if anybody has heard about the app T, like Spill the Tea, which is really just like talk about gossip, talk about like whisper networks. So this one app was called T. It was for women
Mhm.
to talk about the experiences that they've had dating men in their city. And men got pissed off about it. The sweatiest, stinkiest parts of the internet were like, how dare they talk about men, and like they're just trying to freeze us out.
Mhm.
So you know what happened? There was a huge data breach for T. You
Mhm.
had to verify your identity using like a picture of your ID on this app.
Don't send your
And
ID to anybody, especially if
then
you're up.
Oh, well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
getting harder and harder not to
Yeah.
send your ID to anybody because of a slew of new laws. I mean,
Yes. But that's
think
why
about what's happening in Great Britain right now.
what's happening in Great Britain, but also like porn sites and everything and
Yeah.
stuff. But anyway, go on.
So there was a data breach. People found lots of driver's license photos and databases of people who signed up, their emails, all of that stuff. This information was posted to 4chan. Remember 4chan? Remember when we thought that it was dead? Turns out that the sweatiest, stinkiest part of the internet is actually still going.
It will never die, basically. Yeah.
So as part of this whole like issue with the T app and people talking about whether or not, X or Y men,
Mhm.
whether or not a certain man is a safe person to go on a date with,
Mhm.
people got really mad. An internet commenter said, create a male version of this app using the database. They didn't use the database, but they did create a male version of this app called T on Her.
Mhm.
And that got breached as well.
In
So
the same
Devendra,
way, apparently, and in very similar ways. So yeah.
Devendra, have you ever heard of a bunch of Facebook groups across the country called Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Yeah. That was a big deal.
I think this speaks to a bigger, I'm going to use a grad school word here, heteropessimism.
Ooh.
People who just feel really bad about dating, and especially like, men dating women, women dating men. It feels like nobody trusts each other. Everybody hates the apps. Everybody feels like they're walking on thin ice.
Yeah.
If you're an actual decent person, you're not walking on thin ice. I'm whispering too much this episode. But it's nasty. And
Mhm.
I feel like the current presidential administration and everything is making it worse, because if you think about it, 2017, at the end of 2017 was when Me Too got started.
Yeah.
Now we've got another bunch of people who are credibly accused of all sorts of bad, intimate
Mhm.
partner relationship sort of stuff. And of course, people want to protect themselves in a similar way. So I don't have any answers about this, but man, there was a strike, there was a parade. A bunch of people got their data leaked, and I don't think anybody is happy about it.
Nobody's happy, but also, yeah, these sites. If a site is asking you for verification with your ID, don't do it. Don't do it. As like spicy as it may sound or whatever, don't do it. We there are secure ways to share ID data with like folks, but I don't know if like these sites are doing it properly. I think the only place that has done it hardcore is like the tax office, or like the special ID you need to get into your tax information, and also the ID me stuff. Maybe folks are using ID me. I think that's what they are. That's one I've seen used well. I've not heard of any breaches there, but there are so many people trying to collect your data now. Do not send your ID out willy nilly. Be really careful out there, folks.
Yeah, so this comes from a TechCrunch article called How We Found T on Her Spilling Users' Driver's Licenses in Less Than 10 Minutes. And they were using an an API that allowed unauthenticated access to user data.
What? Duh.
To that, I
What the-
say,
Yeah,
Bruh.
bro. Yeah.
Let's move on to what we're working on. Devendra, what have you got cooking?
What have I got cooking? Working on a couple of things right now that we just published the Windows 10 explainer that we talked about last week. What to do if you're still using Windows 10. I may be looking at Dell's Premium 16 laptop, which is the new version of the XPS 16. So we'll be doing that. I think we're going to be doing a bunch of coverage around Windows 10 in general, just because it seems like readers have a lot of questions. So maybe a list of PCs we'd recommend if you're jumping from Windows 10. A lot of those are in our PC guides already, but we're going to do one specifically for people who are like coming off of a really old computer. Um, I guess we're all just prepping for like what's next, right? Like iPhone, there's a Google
iPhone
event
season,
coming.
Techtober, Infinite Techtober.
It's all happening really soon, and summer's ending. My kids are back in, like my daughter is back in school too, so we don't have to deal with her during the whole day. So
School
everything's
ends
changing.
earlier in the South and begins earlier, right?
It's I don't know if it ends earlier, it just begins earlier, and they take some breaks throughout. Like there are some week-long breaks scattered throughout
Mm,
the year too, so I think they just do it differently. I do remember like it was late August. This is when I was going to school in Connecticut.
yep.
And then you're done end of May, I think, early
Yeah, for
June.
me it was like early September, like sometime after Labor Day, and then we would finish up like
Yes.
the end of June or so.
Yeah. Anyway, hard out there for parents who've had to be dealing with their young kids throughout the summer too. Uh I'm trying to think what else. Keep an eye out. Engadget.com. We've got a bunch of stuff cooking. I do want to write more about my EV, kind of like buying a used EV journey, because people have a lot of questions there too. Also, like just random things happening with the car I bought. Like now I have to replace the USB port because the Nissan Leaf is essentially an economy car and things break very easily. So I had to look up how to like install a new USB module. Fun projects on my end. Anything you want to shout out, Ben?
No, so we'll end it at fun projects on my end.
Well, let's go to our picks. Is it a book you got for us?
Yeah, so I've been reading this book called Algo Speak by Adam Alexic. He is better known as Entomology Nerd on TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram.
Hmm.
And so he is a Harvard linguistics graduate. I think he just has a bachelor's, but jumped straight into being like a public intellectual.
Hmm.
And he's talking all about the strange, like, words that have come up on the internet, but also like how people kind of mask what they're talking about
Hmm.
on TikTok, because people think that they might get shadow banned if they say, sex. So they say segs. They say, if somebody
Alive.
died, they didn't die, they were unalived.
Yeah.
Um, there is a term self-deletion. I can
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
go off and you can guess what that is. And so he goes into like why people did this. Like, yes, there are some measures on TikTok talking about or there are some measures on TikTok to keep people from talking about like things that are really hairy for them to deal with on social media. So especially like self-harm, suicide, or self-deletion,
Mhm.
all of that stuff that makes sense. But then it also leads people to develop kind of a cargo cult mentality, thinking like, okay, well, if I, speak the algo speak, then my video is more likely to do better. It's more likely to be seen by different pools of users, get hundreds or thousands of comments and, become mildly TikTok famous or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he uses that as a jumping off point for how the internet has shaped language now. This isn't the first book about how the internet has shaped language, but I think that it comes at a really good time because a lot more people got online after the pandemic. TikTok is a really interesting lab for linguistics and like how people change around what they're saying. And then now the rest of the book is a good way of looking back on the different ways that different like vernaculars have popped up online. There's a whole
Yeah.
chapter about how incel lingo has really shaped online conversations, especially Gen Z slang. Everybody who's saying that they are, friend maxing or river pilled or something, like that's red pilled, blue pilled, that's looks maxing. It
Sure.
all comes from a certain place.
It
The
all comes from
only
The Matrix, the greatest movie of all time. But yes, let me.
the only complaint that I have about this book is that it has a really good glossary of all of these different terms. So I'm looking up my favorite terms. You can see emoji in this glossary. That's really funny.
Mhm.
There's a whole like line item just for the eggplant emoji, which is hilarious.
Mhm.
But they don't have my favorite case of algo speak from 4chan. There is
Mhm.
0 instances of weeaboo.
Hmm.
He does not talk about weeaboo at all. And how, like, back when Moot was running 4chan, they
Yeah.
took a certain word and just changed it to weeaboo when you were talking about how much people liked anime. And now, like, it was originally talking about like white people who like really, really love Japan in
Yeah.
a like kind of exotifying way. But now I see people of all races say, "Oh yeah, I'm such a weeb," just because they like anime.
Mhm.
I think Algo Speak is a great book. It is just really, really well timed. Adam is a great person to talk about this stuff.
Mhm.
I think he's on book tour now. If you want to see if he's at your local library or bookstore, and check this book out. I think it's worth it.
Also, if you see authors doing book talks or something, stop on by. Stop on
Yeah, they
by.
love it.
Too many folks basically stand up to empty rooms because nobody is there for their actual talks or their book premieres or whatever. So that's sad. It is funny how like essentially our language evolves with the technology in front of us because was it the LOLs, the like shortened speech and everything
Yep.
came from chat. Basically, just all we were doing is doing text chat, but also a lot of that also came from SMS and texting too. It all changes, and now like the
He
big
talked
AI
about
language,
leet speak in this
yeah,
book. He just doesn't talk about weeaboos for whatever reason.
surprising. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Lead speak is a big one, but also we're all watching short form video now, right? And I think like using those words is like a softening thing too, like rather than the serious notion of talking about suicide and so many other topics. Like if you're watching somebody for 10 seconds, they can mention this thing and it doesn't hit you as hard as like
Mm,
murder. There's
yeah.
it is a weird softening of language. I in college I was studying Wittgenstein quite a bit, and he is somebody he's a philosopher who's all about how we build language and how we create it. And this is all fascinating because I don't think he saw this coming. He was all about like humans like with newspapers in different ways, like bringing slang into vernacular and making them official words. But I don't. I would love. Where's my Wittgenstein AI robot to respond to everything happening now in language?
Meanwhile, the New York Times opinion writer Jamel Bowie
Mm-hmm.
really doesn't use any of this algo speak,
Yeah,
and he still has videos that do really well. Of course, he's like really nerdy. He's
he has a good.
very much a history nerd, so he has definitely curated his audience of people who can sit there for like 5 minutes
He
as he
has good
talks about
professor
how,
energy. Yeah, I love him, but also like a professor, like my favorite
oh
professor.
yeah, he's
Will just
such a
like
professor. Like,
talk
I'm
about
so
anything.
surprised that he doesn't have an advanced degree. Dude just has a
Mhm.
bachelor's and read so much.
That's
No law
ridiculous.
degree, no PhD, even though he is so professorial.
I mean, I believe he does teach classes too, so
Oh
like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
professorial in a way. But yeah, that was what I was thinking about way back when. It's like I don't need a grad degree. I don't need anything else. I just need to read. I need to see everything that's happening here. Anyway, check out
You
Jamel
need to have
Bouie stuff.
time to read too, though.
He live streams Chrono Trigger. Like this man
Yeah, he
has just earned
does.
his way into my heart because like everything I love, he's live streaming Chrono Trigger on the weekends.
I think his professorial nature also makes people think that he's a lot older than he is. He talks
Yeah,
about this a lot,
he's
actually.
younger
And
than me.
he's like, guys, I'm a millennial. And people are like, really?
Well, he also dresses like a professor too. So like he's all about the fits. Love Jamel Bowie. Check out that's a recommendation. Go check out Jamel Bowie's TikToks. And also he's doing longer form stuff on YouTube. But it's very cool to see him doing different things. Also makes me want to do like different sorts of content. So yeah, we'll be making some stuff. We'll see. I've got a pop culture recommendation this week, and that is Alien Earth, the new series that's on FX on Hulu, which you can watch on the Disney Plus app because we live in a hellscape of streaming services that are nesting dolls, basically. But Alien Earth, this is Noah Hawley doing an Alien prequel. It's set 2 years before the events of the first movie. It brings the action to Earth for the first time. It is fantastic. If you love sci-fi, if you love Alien, if you love big ideas, if you love Timothy Oliphant, got Timothy Oliphant as a synthetic with shock white hair in this show. If you love,
Looking a lot like Billy Idol.
yeah, there's a bit of that there. Maybe a bit of like Jim Jarmusch as well. This show like has the alien stuff. It actually starts on a spaceship where you see the crew getting up out of cryosleep. Like it basically does the alien stuff. We know they're all going to be destroyed, but they are bringing extraterrestrial samples to Earth. Some eggs, some of the xenomorph eggs. We see a xenomorph basically wreak havoc on that ship, but also introduces a new concept to this universe. We've had synthetics, we've had androids, which are humans with synthetic like robotic parts and stuff. This series introduces the idea of hybrids. Basically, a young tech prodigy, a tech genius, has developed a technology to take human brain, like your brain data, your personality, take your brain, bring that data into a synthetic body. So it's not a synthetic with programming; it's a synthetic that's been human brain transfer over, uploaded into the body. They're calling these hybrids, and he is positioning these folks as like the next evolution of humanity because essentially they're immortal. These bodies don't die. They can get crushed or destroyed or whatever, but they don't die. They don't get sick. So he has gathered a group of terminally ill kids who know that they're going to be dying soon and given them this choice to upload their bodies. The lead one, the first one to do this, is a girl who calls herself Wendy. There's a lot of Peter Pan imagery in this because it's essentially about children living forever in synthetic bodies, and also the synthetic bodies are adults. They're more mature bodies. So like a lot of concepts going on in this show. But ultimately,
Wendy, played by Kyle Chandler's daughter.
Wendy, played by Sydney Chandler, Kyle Chandler's daughter, you can tell because she has the iconic Chandler eyebrows. Which I kind of do. It's like she looks familiar. She's actually fantastic in this. I've not seen her in anything before, but if you can imagine, like when you see Peter Pan performed on stage or in movies, how like the kids are just like plucky and ready for adventure and everything, and she's very much that. But also because she's a child in this new body, and this new body, by the way, super strong, can do things that synthetics can do, can jump from high places. Yeah, it's there are these new creatures, these new beings. I think this show is asking the same questions that Ridley Scott's Prometheus and Alien Covenant tried to explore. And I think Ridley Scott's a dabbler. Like he loves to think about like, man, where did humans come from? Man, androids are cool. Like it is cool that we've created these things. And man, humanity sucks. And maybe the robots should take over our planet and our civilization. That's kind of all the ideas percolating in those movies. I don't think they ever quite gelled because they also had to be scripted as big budget action blockbusters. This show gets to have 8 episodes to just breathe and let you sit in this universe and meet these characters. And they're all fascinating. I think it's well performed. I think it looks incredible. It delivers the typical alien thrills because you do see the xenomorphs like out there tearing stuff up, but there are also new aliens. There are new things that have come up, and they're freaky in their own right. All like weirdly parasitic. There's a lot of body horror. There's a lot of organ horror in this show. Like it is, and there's action too when you need to. It almost feels like he made like live action anime. At one point, Sydney Chandler's character is like, "Oh, we got to go on this rescue mission." Sure. Oh, this thing looks like a sword. I'm gonna wear it on my back like a katana because it looks badass. That is kind of how the show's working, but it's really smart while also delivering the fun, campy sci-fi stuff that you would want from a good Alien, like the more actiony side of Alien, like Aliens. But it also delivers the thoughtful side from the first movie and the stuff like I think Ridley Scott tried to do, but couldn't quite do because he's an old cantankerous man and just does not have patience for, I don't know, storytelling sometimes. So anyway, the show is good. If you like Alien or if you just like science fiction, check it out. I devoured 6 episodes in basically in a couple days. The first 2 episodes are up now. The rest are going to be released week to week. I cannot wait to see where this show goes. That's Alien Earth on FX, on Hulu, and the Disney Plus app. Good God. Good God.
Okay, chat, we're going to stick around for just a couple minutes more, but I'm going to do the end of the episode for the audio recording. Surprise, if you didn't know, this is also an audio show. If you're watching this, you owe us a download on the RSS too. Let's keep RSS alive.
Yes.
So that's the end of our episode, everybody. Thank you for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. And the podcast is produced by me, Ben Ellman. You can find Devindra online at
Devindra on Blue Sky, and also podcasts about movies and TV at The Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to send me recommendations for cozy sci-fi novels, books, or TV shows, you can find me online at Hey Bellman on Blue Sky. Email us at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts. That's Pocket Casts. That's Overcast if it still exists. And it's definitely Spotify.
Thanks, folks. We're out. All right. I see some things in chat. Hello, folks. Thank you for sticking with us.
Yep. So Zidar says that it gets kind of weird. This is going back to talking about algo speak. It gets kind of weird when you're talking about serious topics with words like grape and PDF files.
Yes.
It is definitely strange. So I think the opposite of what Devindra said is also true, which is if you are just like basically flipping channels, basically channel surfing on TikTok, and you get a 1.5 minute long video about someone talking about like self-deletion or something. Yeah, okay, that might not smack you across the face in the same way that someone talking about Sue S asterisk aside or something would bother someone. On the other hand, you're sitting here, you might be watching a 5-minute long video on TikTok or longer because they're allowing that. And somebody says, oh, well, this guy is a PDF file and this guy is a PDF file. Like, are you listening to yourself?
Yeah.
Brother, this is a really difficult conversation that you're having, and you're using this weird baby talk.
It feels like weird baby talk. And then I'm now seeing people reporting that novels, like new novels, are using.
Oh, no.
So Unalived has appeared in new novels coming.
So in the book, Algo Speak, they talk about a museum exhibit about Kurt Cobain, I think. And they said, and there was like a plaque or something that described Kurt Cobain and like what happened to Kurt Cobain's fate, and they used the word unalive.
Yep,
which
too, yeah.
I wonder if there were meetings about that. I wonder if it was like a lower level employee who is obviously going to be younger and like was just like, okay, let's see if like this connects with anyone. I don't think that it was actually used in total earnest of like, oh, well, we're not going to use the term died or passed or anything. But there was an interesting sub conversation in this book that talked about how even like what we say about like dying or somebody passing away or passing on to the next life, that is its own like vernacularization. That's a way of softening the blow of talking about like a really painful experience in human life.
So I'm not surprised that happened, but it is surprising to see. Yeah, on that, I remember on that plaque, but I think people are going to be surprised to see it just popping up as like normal language in books and stuff moving forward too. But yeah.
Oh, we didn't get to the mailbag, or we could get to the mailbag if you want. Put it in the episode.
Let's do that real quick.
Okay. Let me go to the website Okay, so chat, we're actually going to be recording another little part of the episode right now.
This is a gaming on
So
Mac one, right?
okay, yes, and yes, then this guy's name is Sumit. Should I pronounce that as Sumit or Sumit?
Don't know. So it depends. Everyone pronounces your name differently, so you could just say Sumit. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Sumit, I apologize if I'm not getting your name right. So, okay, let's get back into Game Face.
Yeah.
So, we also have a question from our listener mail. Reminder, you can always send us a question to podcast@engadget.com. We got a email from Sumit Roy about gaming on the MacBook Air. He says, I bought a MacBook Air last year with all the bells and whistles. However, newer MacBooks no longer have Boot Camp. If I want to play PC games on this MacBook Air, would you suggest any alternatives? Are there any software solutions I'm better off with? Or should I just get a Steam Deck? I don't want to buy a separate Windows laptop. What
Mhm.
would you say?
I would say there are a lot of things you can play on a Mac. Actually, the MacBook Air is a little more limited because it doesn't have the GPU power of the the Pros, but
It also doesn't have fans, right?
doesn't have fans. So keep that in mind too. If you're going to do any sort of like anything that stresses your Mac, if you're doing outside, or if you're doing inside on a hot day, maybe get some air going through that. But there are Steam games that are supported on Macs. You have to download the Steam client for Mac. I believe Disco Elysium works on Macs, and that's not like a heavy duty game, so you could play that on the Air just fine.
Also,
There are
like
more.
Death Stranding or something. Like there's
Death
for
Stranding
the
is
last
in the App Store. Death
yeah for
Stranding
the
is,
last
yeah.
few big Apple announcements, they spent a lot of time talking about how they want to
Yep.
bring more games to the M series Max,
Yeah.
and they even brought in Kojima to
So
talk
Death
about that.
Stranding is there. I don't know how that would run on the air. That would actually be a fun test. The Resident Evil games are there, so a lot of like big recent games are also on Mac. You could do that too. There's stuff from Apple Arcade that works pretty well on Macs because a lot of them are built for iPhone and iPad. The big screen iPad games look really good on Macs. I believe you can get some indie games on Macs as well. The big thing is like if you want to play things that are not supported on Mac, get a Steam Deck. Spend $400 to $500, get even a used Steam Deck, or a refurbished Steam Deck. That'll get you access to all those other games that work. Steam Deck is technically Linux, but their emulation for PC stuff or Windows stuff is really good. So that'll cover like most other games. I think games with cheat blocker, cheat like the sort of like
Oh, anti-cheat sort of stuff.
cheat stuff, like they don't work on Steam because they require Windows logins, and they may not work on Mac. So I think for like Fortnite you may be screwed, and maybe some of the like competitive games, and then at that point then yes, you will probably have to get a Windows gaming PC. But I think between a Mac for smaller games, it depends on what you want to play. I also think a Steam Deck is pretty functional, and you could do a lot with that. You could also consider cloud gaming services. So pair a game controller to your Mac, and you can do anything. You could do the Xbox cloud streaming. You could do there are a variety of other services. GeForce Now, as long as you have a web browser and a controller paired to that computer, you can cloud game and also be pretty happy with that.
And if you want to see more games on Mac, demand it too. Go to the developer's website, bother them so very politely, please. Don't get what's the word I'm looking for?
Don't get nasty.
Yeah, don't get nasty, don't get entitled.
Be cool, man. Be cool. But there are also just so many other ways to play games now. So, it's if it's not the end of the world if it's something doesn't hit max, you've got other ways to get to it. Game streaming is a big thing, and I think we're probably going to see Nvidia deliver better GeForce Now eventually. Xbox cloud streaming seems like a bigger part of where they're headed, so maybe Microsoft will actually dedicate more to it. When I've been traveling for work stuff, I always bring like a spare game controller because I know I can like hop in and do Xbox cloud streaming, and it won't be the best overall quality, but I could still, my save file, your save files, if you're gaming on a PC, your save files are synchronized to like Microsoft's cloud, so you can game across a gaming PC and Xbox, but also if you start from a Mac with Xbox Cloud streaming, then you could also reconnect on another device too easily too. So You have options. You have many, many options. You don't necessarily need to get a Windows gaming PC immediately.
So thanks so much for the question. Please send us more. Again, it's podcast@engadget.com. Cool. Another segment.
Cool.
So
There's anything new? I did see
going back, yeah, like
WX,
WX.
by the way, pointed out he pulled the trigger on an open box HP OmniBook X. Nice. Very nice. Snapdragon X Elite, 16 gigabytes of memory, 1 terabyte SSD, $526.
Yo,
Cheaper than a MacBook iPad Air. It's a good deal. Even
I like that.
Yeah. Good deals on Copilot machines.
What is the build quality on HPs these days,
The
Devendra?
OmniBook X is their like more premium one, so that's good. That'd be a good sturdy computer. Also really light too because it's a Snapdragon one.
Because I remember seeing HPs just fall apart in like high school and college.
I mean, that was so long ago. That's when basically everybody used plastic, and post MacBook Air, everybody tried to move over to metal cases. So if you're getting a premium machine from most companies, it's gonna be metal. It's gonna be a sturdy case. And I like the OmniBook X.
So what do we? Man, like if you scroll up far enough, you are getting people talking about EVs again. Yash again. We mentioned their comment about being in Cuba and seeing a lot of Chinese EVs there. He says, and as an Indian, there are a bunch of EVs that Tata is making, as well as other manufacturers who partner with bigger car companies globally. What are your thoughts on the Indian EV market?
I honestly have not looked too closely at it. I know Tata is doing a lot of work, but we don't get to see their cars here, so we don't really get to see what's happening. From what I've been seeing, Tata and others have been focused on like making more cost-effective vehicles for the Indian market. And I think like as India becomes more of a manufacturing hub, which is happening with iPhone and like a lot of Apple stuff, like maybe we'll see more innovation there. I would love to see it. I would love to see like India doing much better, in the global landscape, especially for electronics.
So I think that's it. I think we actually have to get back to
Gotta get back to work.
other Engadget work. I have to edit this episode. So thank you everybody for watching and listening. Chat, you make our conversations better. You remember stuff that we forget. It's always fun to do these live streamed episodes. So please come back. Thumbs up the stream if you're watching it after we already finished.
And subscribe and download.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Do all of those nice things. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, folks. We're out.